Welcome to Dear Sandy. I'm Sandy Galiff, a member of the New York State Assembly, representing parts of northern Westchester and parts of Putnam County. And today we're going to be talking about a very special tribute that a number of people in the community have worked on to remember 9/11 and the tragedy that we all suffered in New York City at that point. And actually beyond. And I have today, we're going to be talking about the 9/11 memorial that has been put together by the villages of Buchanan, the village of Croton, and the town of Cortland. And it's a wonderful memorial right on the Hudson River. And so I'd like to introduce my guests. First of all, Janet Monero, who I guess you were project director of the Remembrance Memorial.
Yes, I am.
That was quite a project. We'll talk about it.
A challenge, yes.
And Leo Wedman is the mayor of Croton and very involved with it, as well as Linda Puglisi, who's supervisor of the town of Cortland. So, Leo, it kind of all started between the two of you.
Yeah.
Give us a little background.
Sure. I had been elected mayor of the village in 2009, and about 4 or 5 months later, at the end of the summer of 2009, I got a phone call from someone who said her name was Janet Monero and that she was a resident of the village, and she had an interest in finding out whether the village might want to participate with the Port Authority program of writing for and requesting a piece of steel from the World Trade Centers.
Oh,
And
that's right.
so
it was at that point
at-
that they had the steel that they were allowing people.
Well, there was a program that was going to unfold, and
Right.
Janet had been tracking this and researching this and followed up. And so, in a sense, the Jesuits sort of defined two kinds of sin: the sin of omission, where you forget to do something you should have, and have to take penance, and the sin of commission, where you do something that maybe in the end you shouldn't have, and you have to ask for forgiveness. So I'm always committing the sin of commission and saying yes. So I said yes to Janet. Let's go ahead and start this process and write that letter and get that letter in. And from there, we sort of put our name in the queue. And as that project, as you were getting communications, as Janet was getting communications from the Port Authority, the project began to look like it was going to be much bigger than just the village would want to be able to succeed with itself. And we began an outreach.
So then there was the conversation, with the village of Buchanan. Sean Murray was the mayor at that point, and Linda Puglisi as town supervisor of Cortland. I guess you got into that dialogue at that point too?
All right, Sandy, thank you for having us all here today. First of all, for your involvement in this beautiful memorial. 13 years ago, on the very sad, tragic day of 9/11, I was supervisor at the time, and we just tragically lost several people from our community and in the village as well. And a few years later, I had the pleasure of meeting Janet. She came into my office. Leo came with her, and we started talking about Janet's dream of having a memorial along the Hudson River with the town of Cortland, the villages of Croton and Buchanan. And then 5 years later, we had the final dedication this year, the 13th anniversary of the 9/11. And it's been a wonderful collaborative effort. Sean Murray was the mayor of Buchanan at the time. Teresa Knickerbocker is the mayor now. All of our town board members were involved. And we're so proud of the memorial that was designed by James Rode, and the sculptress is Lauren Davis, a resident of Croton-on-Hudson. It's just magnificent. It's at the Croton Landing, Leo. We all participate and will continue to maintain it for many years to come. But it's just been a wonderful opportunity to meet Janet, the 20 members of the task force who are volunteers who helped us with their specialty, various fields, to reach our goal and achieve this beautiful memorial in memory of the people that perished that sad day 13 years ago from our community, from the nation, the first responders, second responders who went down there. Some of them became ill and passed away as well. And all the emergency services that went down there, and all of the men and women who have defended our great country since 9/11 to protect us.
Right, absolutely. And there was Janet. I it's not every day that somebody has a great idea, a seed for a project. I mean, we have wonderful people in all of our communities that have ideas, but this was, I don't think I've really had anybody come to me quite this way about having a memorial. So what got you into this?
I was reading my New York Times, and that was the first clue that I got, that the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey had this steel, and they really wanted to distribute it throughout the world. But you had to be a nonprofit or municipality, and you couldn't use it for any profit at all. So I was recently retired from Metro North Railroad, and I had worked many, many times with the Port Authority on different projects throughout my career. So I read the article several times, and I still have the article, and I thought, I can do this. So that's when I contacted Leo, and I said, is the village interested in something like this? And he said yes, and I knew nothing of how to do anything that I have accomplished with the task force. Never did anything for nonprofit or memorial.
So you're brand new at this.
I am a certified planner, so I figured I could plan anything. But if people knew how little experience I had in this, they probably wouldn't have invested any.
I still would have said yes.
Yeah, you would. But it was.
You brought in different skills that you might not have had to begin with.
That's exactly right. I mean,
Right.
Filing the foundation for nonprofit status, the 501. Being recognized by New York State as a nonprofit, taking advantage of all the state and federal benefits, such as bulk mailing and tax exempt. That's all behind the scenes kind of stuff that I had never ever.
That took a lot of time.
That took a lot of
had
time.
A lot of
I
time
have a lot
just
of
in the
files.
preparation. Well, you had a wonderful task force
I did.
of how many people were on it?
Right now, there were 16. We started off with like 20, but around 16 have persevered, shall I say, and they bring. Every one of them brings their own expertise in either engineering, architect, public relations, fundraising, planning. Everyone brought something to the table, and the other thing is that they all stayed with it. Not all of them. Some had to leave, but the ones that stayed through thick and thin. And there was many challenging days and weeks and doubt that we could continue this and really be successful. But
Right.
they stayed. And we still get together too on a social basis too.
Right, that's great.
Yes,
so
yes.
you really
Just
get to know
wonderful
neighbors
people.
and
One other
friends.
thing we do,
Wonderful.
and on our task force, we have two family members, Mary Kane and Sarah Sprantz, that lost people either on that day or after that day. So.
I think we're going to take a moment now and just put up on the screen the people that have worked on the task
Yes,
force,
that'd
so
be terrific.
we can say
Good,
thank
yeah.
you to them
That'd be
also.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's watch. Janet, they were so you had task force members that were so involved. They brought their expertise
They did.
to the table. Let's just we saw a little bit of the memorial. Not the whole. You have to really go to Croton Landing
You
to
do,
see it.
you
But
do.
tell us a little bit about what the sculpture represents.
Well, the sculpture is done by Lauren Davis, who is a local resident of Croton. She's a very talented woman, a sculptor and painting. And Lauren will tell you that everyone should bring their own idea and thoughts when they look at the statue. But we have always said that she represents all of us. She stands solid and strong, and that she could carry the weight of that terrible day. And she's there for all of us to remember and to reflect. And we also put a memorial garden there so that people could sit, they could look at the statue, which is also a sundial, and reflect.
Yeah.
So, Leo,
What was interesting to me about the whole process was that we did, in beginning, realize that we had a very unique piece of steel, which was riveting. You fall in love with that piece of steel the first time you see it. And we saw it come out of the Hangar 17 at JFK and be laid on a flatbed, and there wasn't a straight piece of metal on that beam. It was just ripped and torn, punctured. All the shear bolts for the floor were all with their heads twisted in different directions, almost as if you had a whole line of people who were marching up this beam, all looking different ways. So it was a very animated piece of metal. And I think one of the important things for me was that we do want to reflect and remember, but there will always be bad things that happen. And we will always need a place for resilience to recover and have a quiet and peaceful place. So when we began the process, we began it by putting out a request for proposals for potential designs for what to do with this piece of steel. You know,
Right.
would it be hung somewhere? Would it be mounted on something? And so we got a series of very, very fabulous proposals. Interestingly enough, in the selection process of going through those, this particular design was, in a sense, the most abstract. The design team, an architect and a sculptor, came up with a piece that marked time as a sundial and marked the passage of time, and the face of the sundial marks the hours. On September 11th, it passes through the hours with the medallions that tell you what happened in those hours. So it was sort of it does that every day of the year, but on those days in particular, or that day in particular. And the statue essentially humanizes this piece of steel and represents, as the theme that the designers gave it was reaching through the shadows. You'll always have a need to reach through the shadows for any kind of tragedy that might happen. 9/11 happened, and of course we've had other things since. And so we know from the process that it was important for people to have a place of resilience. And so I think that's sort of what it reflects to me. The first test for the statue was whether it could survive Tropical Storm Sandy, because it's only 2.5 feet above mean high tide at its location.
Right.
And
so far,
it survived intact. So
that's good.
um,
Linda, you have quite a story about going out to get the steel, I think. I mean, you all three, I guess.
All three of us were there,
right.
and we went down to JFK Airport, and Janet had been in touch with the Port Authority to give us approval to go pick it up. I believe it was Mr. Godair who had the flatbed truck, Janet, and we put the 1-ton steel beam from the North Tower of the World Trade Center on the flatbed, draped it with an American flag, and we had about 15 vehicles, if not more, in the caravan that went down together. Emergency services, police cars, fire departments, ambulance vehicles, and some of the elected officials went down to retrieve it and bring it back home to the town of Cortland, which we have been incorporated into this beautiful memorial that James Rhodes, the architect, and Lauren Davis then with the bronze sculptress of the woman reaching through the shadows. And just quickly, from my perspective and what I see when I look at it is a woman, a mother, reaching for her child, her loved one, but just can't grasp it. So there's a space between the steel beam that's on an angle and then the statue. So she's trying to reach for her loved one. It's very emotional. And so it's the sadness as we sit there and reflect, but it's also, as Leo was saying, the hope of the future. That's what I see, and that's what I feel when I'm there.
And I think Lauren would be very happy with all of this conversation because she
Yeah.
wants the visitor to take away what they see and what they feel about it. So I
Right.
think she'd be very happy. And also, just one quick thing, the sundial is registered with the North American Sundial Society, which we're very proud of. And,
That was another complication, I'm sure.
And Jim, he led the way on that. That was his challenge. He took care of that. But we're very proud of that as well.
I just want to say how terrific Janet was and all the volunteers in the committee. I mean, Janet worked with our staff also, with our attorneys, of course, with our attorneys and our
This
Abe
was a
Zambrano.
collaborative effort, definitely.
It was a
Yeah,
total
absolutely, yeah.
collaborative effort. So staff got involved, board members, volunteers. It was a true grassroots community collaborative effort with a beautiful result.
Right,
I,
absolutely.
I think one of the hallmarks of this particular effort was, and we went through a process to find the location. We looked at a number of
Yeah.
different
That's
locations,
gonna
ask you
which
about
was
how you
similar to the
figured that
RFP
out.
for.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we visited quite a number of sites. The task force sort of identified potential
That's right.
places, and at the end of the day, we realized we wanted a site that was naturally quiet, where people already went to sort of just to walk or whatever, and that led us to the northern terminus of the Croton Landing Park in the village
Right
of
on the
Croton,
Hudson
right on the
River.
Hudson, right on the
Right.
Hudson. And in fact, that particular location was one in which, of course, one of the planes had flown directly by.
That's right.
The second plane. So it has meaning from that direction as well. But we know that the statue and the entire site carries a resiliency message because shortly, 2 Decembers ago, you found, was it 2 Decembers ago? We found the number.
Newtown?
Yeah.
The Newtown, yeah, 2 Decembers ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Newtown tragedy. Someone said to me, there's toys in the channel where the beam is. There's a gully like. So I went down there. It was just, I think it was like Christmas Eve day.
Yeah. Chris, yeah.
And there were eight Beanie Bears and 11 action toys. And I didn't know what they represented, but I knew the numbers were important. So I emailed the task force, and one of the task force members, Kathy Farry, she said, those are the boys and girls that were killed at Newtown.
Oh, so people
Wow.
used
So
it
used
for
it as
another
a place
opportunity.
to, right.
Right.
So you
And,
brought them there.
We
Right.
since, I left them there for a while, and then I took them home and cleaned them up, and I contacted the supervisor at Newtown, and she said she would accept them. So we brought them, we hand-delivered them down there.
That's beautiful, John.
What's the best way to get there, Leah? What's
So the best way to get there is just to put Elliott Way in your GPS, and
Right.
it's at Croton on Hudson, or Croton Landing Park, and you'll go. You get off at, if you're traveling off Route 9, you get off at Municipal Place exit, and you'll go onto Half Moon Bay Drive, follow that to the end, take a right, and go north on Elliott Way all the way. And there's a parking lot.
I almost think you're going into the condo area there.
Right,
but-
and you'll
but
take a
you're
right
not.
turn there and go past the Senasco Boat Basin and the Croton Yacht Club until you get to a parking lot. We've had to expand the parking lot. In fact, the park has become so active. You know, the one thing that came to my mind, and I saw Lauren Davis at a couple days ago, and I said, you know, Lauren, one of the things that when you go to a cathedral in Europe and there's a statue of some long dead saint or cardinal or something, and the foot of the statue is smooth because people go up and rub the foot. You know,
Right,
big statue.
Right.
And so I said, I wonder if that will happen with our statue.
Sure.
Right.
And she said, you know what? I just had a mother tell me that I overheard a mother, because she was walking her dog, I overheard a mother ask her daughter where she was. And the daughter says, Mom, I have to go back and touch the lady's foot.
Really?
Oh, and I remember seeing the
Yeah.
lady be developed because
Yes,
I
we were
remember
there.
going when
studio.
it was there was a woman that was the model for it, right?
Yes, yes, she had
Yeah.
one.
And then before it was casted, was it a
Well,
warehouse or?
It was the Westchester Industrial Complex. They donated studio space for
Yeah.
Lauren to work. And at first it started as an amateur, and then it went into clay, and then it went plaster. So you probably saw it when it was in plaster.
Plaster,
And then
right.
then it went to the foundry.
Right.
And
But
Sandy,
yeah.
also, there was a lot of fundraising that went on that Janet chaired in the committee, and we all went to the fundraisers. And so, you know, it was a costly a venture, but certainly well worth it. And I know, Sandy, that through the state funding, you were able to contribute a grant for that, and we were very, very appreciative
Very.
of that.
Well, it was
Yeah.
at a good time
Yeah,
when the
very
project really
appreciative.
needed it right
That
at
was
the
a nice
end,
capstone.
but,
It was.
Capstone funding.
It
so
was
to speak.
again. It was just I'm so into cooperative sharing
Yep.
services,
Yeah, and that's
it
what
was,
we do.
It was a
That's
perfect
what we do.
example of that.
This is
So
a perfect example.
is it a unique? I'm sure there are other 9/11 memorials. Well, New York City, obviously, we have one, and other places, but and along our riverfront, actually, in Peekskill, there's one,
Right,
there's
one.
and so
Yes.
on. But is this somewhat unique? Have you looked to see what the others are like?
It's very
or-
special.
It is, and I do talk to the Port Authority from time to time, so I give them an update of where we are. And so when we were just about finished with phase one, I called up my contact there and I said, you know, we're done. I mean, we're done. We did it. And because they wanted to get pictures because they were hoping to put a book together and have all the pictures of all the steel that people have used in memorials. So I sent her the pictures, and she said, I don't think we've ever had one as a sundial. And she was very intrigued with that. So it is unique in a physical way. But it's also unique, I think, because of how we all did it.
Yeah.
How
Yeah,
we
it
all
was a
worked
shared,
together. I mean,
a
it
shared
was,
effort.
It was,
And you know, Janet, if you could also mention a lot of the contractors and the unions
true.
in the area
That's true.
also volunteered to help out.
their labor, materials. I mean, it was a gigantic
Yeah, there was
collaborative
a-
effort. Now that I think of it.
So
I mean,
did people come to you and say, I want to help, or did you hear about somebody that was good at whatever? And
A little
We
bit of
all-
both.
kinda- a
we
little
all
bit of
knew
both.
various
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
We all knew various people
But I have
and
to say,
contacted them.
many of the firms that participated
Yeah.
made significant in-kind contributions to the
did.
project because they believed in the project.
it did.
Right,
They did.
right. So the sense, there was, there was some discussion about, are there too many? Are they going to be effective, having memorials like this? I think it's just your story about somebody coming after the tragedy in Connecticut shows that it's like a place that pulls you together
It is.
in a time of grief.
Right. I mean,
whether
I'm
it's a
waiting for the
family
lady's
member.
foot to be nice and shiny because so many people go up and touch it.
Right,
That's what's
right.
going to happen, I think.
And I'm
And I was never in doubt it wouldn't happen because
Really?
that was when I saw the design, I knew that was
But Sandy, I'm thinking of it today. We all can go there, and we pledge that we'll have our annual ceremonies there every year
Sure.
on the anniversary of 9/11, of course. But we want people to go there every day and sit there and reflect and think about what's going on in their lives. And then this memorial is for generations to come.
That's right. That's the key.
That's the key, Janet. Yeah.
That is the key. Future
I
generations.
mean, I make the point to people that we looked at a whole variety of places. The village worked with the county to use federal funds to renovate and build this park. So the beauty of using federal funds.
Oh, so
is
originally it was you'd gotten money from other places just for the park itself.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
which
Right.
was that was a 15-year-long
Right.
process. And so the building of Croton Landing Park using the Clean Air, Clean Water Bond Act money meant that it was always open to anybody. And there's a beautiful thing about that because had we put it on a town-only site or a village-only site that was only open to local residents, it would have restricted who could have enjoyed it. But in this particular case, the basic piece of land is forever open to anybody. And so this is just now the jewel in the crown at the end of the walk where we
And,
are.
and I
so-
just love the fact that it's on the river. It's just so
It's
beautiful.
such a
Of course, the
beautiful
sadness that one of the
location,
especially
planes
during
did go
sunset.
over the river in that area, but the fact that it's on the river is also symbolic and reflective of our feelings. Yeah.
So, Janet, is the moral to all this story never give up? I mean, it's like
No, it's fierce determination.
fierce determination.
That's what I
Okay.
call it. Fierce determination. And I guess never give up.
That's for sure, Janet.
A lot of
Yeah.
vitamin pills every morning to say I'm going forward with this.
A lot of emails, a lot of meetings.
We had a
Right.
wonderful picnic down
yeah,
by the
we had a lot
river
of-
this summer
yeah.
where everybody congregated
Yeah.
to talk about the 5-year effort, which was well worth it, that's for sure.
Right.
Well,
right.
in essence, we created an infrastructure with Janet as the leader, including a 501c3. And in essence, now that this project is now completed, the statue, phase 1 was the sundial, phase 2 was the statue, phase 3 was the gardens. Those are completed. So now the 501c will actually reach its mission and will dissolve itself.
Right.
And we'll reach an agreement with the towns and the town and the two villages will reach in a municipal agreement with each other to take over the maintenance of the site.
Right.
And
What-
so
what
from that
kind of-
perspective,
And we'll do that by the end of the year.
Yeah,
Right,
by the end
right.
of the year, yeah.
And what kind of, is there tremendous, well, you have gardens around and so on,
Yeah.
so maintenance that way.
Maintenance
yeah,
Right.
and the statue needs to be treated once a year, et cetera. So that's
What do they treat it with?
Well, the Foundry wants to train the DPW. So the foundation will
Department
pay.
of Public Works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the foundation will pay for the Foundry to come to Croton, and the folks from the DPW will have a training session, and especially because it's a tidal area with the salt, he's going to give special details of how to clean it, and it's cleaning and waxing, I guess, to preserve the patina on it.
I guess that
So,
is a problem, right?
yeah.
When you're on the water like that.
Yeah, because
um,
it can flood.
right,
Well,
blood.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
they-
also from the air, from the estuary. Yeah,
right.
so that they'll have that training.
It's
Do you
such a
have-
peaceful location, and bring your children, your grandchildren,
And your dogs.
and talk, and your dogs.
Well, you
and-
do see
dogs.
people, even at the ceremony that you had. It just seemed like a lot of people were on the river, in the park.
That's
They
A
were
lot of people use it
just
as a
walk it,
yeah.
run.
A lot of people use it as a place
yeah.
to take a lunchtime walk,
That's right.
part of their just daily regimen of staying healthy. So from that perspective, it's a great destination.
Right,
And,
this
and
is-
everybody in our 3 communities are so proud to have it there. Very proud.
right.
Yeah, we are.
So we're going to, well, just say congratulations. I'm going to say congratulations to all of you. Just
Thank you,
such
Sandy.
Thank you,
a
Sandy.
job
Thank you.
well done.
And thank
It
you,
is-
Sandy.
It
Thank
is
you.
just really
And
wonderful.
thank you for your support
That's
of it.
right.
Well,
Yeah,
you're
most
welcome, and
definitely.
we all can take pride for generations, and we're going to be ending the program, and with the people that perished, unfortunately, September 11th, and then one in the community who died afterwards.
Yes, the second responder. Yes.
Right, and so we'll put those up on the screen too, so that we can all remember and recall.
Yes.
And that's what we need to do. It was a terrible day in the life of our community, our country, and we need to remember it. And this remembrance is right there for us to do. So
It is.
I thank you all for
Thank you, Sandy.
participating, and let's thank you all for watching. And let's
Yeah.
view the.
Okay.
We'll conclude with the people that we've lost.
Terrific.
Thank you, Bob.